Good morning for everyone again, and we will start this webinar now. I see here many people are present with us, joining us. So
yes, thank you for joining us.
Elena, okay, thank you for joining us. Elena, you start by presenting this webinar, or I will start?
No, please
Okay.
start presenting.
Okay, good. So I will share my screen. The slides is okay on the screen?
Yes, I can see the first slide.
Okay, good. So I will check. Okay, good. So, good morning. And thank you again for joining us to this webinar. The topic of this webinar is MAC address, future, and MSTP configuration. I will be your presenter for this webinar. My name is Benslimane Abderrahim. I am a Huawei instructor. My HCSA number is on your screen. Okay. It is about introducing myself. I am a Cisco instructor too. My CCSI number is here on your screen. I have other certification like VMware, the VCP data center, and others. So I will happy to share with you some topics today about the MAC address futures and MSTP configuration. Okay, these two topics is about LAN technology, and you, as a participant, you must have some knowledge about Ethernet technologies, or to have a good idea about these two topics. Okay, here we see an overview of the content about today. We will see futures, MAC address table futures. First, the classification of MAC address entries and some other information about the address MAC table, the port security, and MAC address flapping. These are futures about MAC address. In this first topic, we will see a lab about MAC address operation. The second topic, the MSTP. This protocol used on the Huawei switches. First, the STP and RSTP defects, and after that we will see about MSTP fundamentals. We have a second lab too, the MSTP configuration, and it is very interesting here in this topic. So, what about the MAC address futures? Talking about the topics to this webinar, I have said we will see we will learn some knowledge about MAC address futures and MSTP configuration. This is an overview of the content of this webinar, and I was talking about the MAC address and what is it? The media access control is the identified. Okay, the MAC address control is used to identify every NIC MAC on your host. Each IP network equipment have its own MAC address. This MAC address is universally unique, and it's used to identify every host. What about the switch? The switch have many ports, and these ports all belonging to one MAC address or physical address. It's the switch's MAC address. And how about the other host when they is plugged on this port of the switch? The MAC address, because it's burned into the hardware by the vendor, it will be not modified. But on the switch, we will take a copy of this information, and it is represented on or saved on a memory app called the MAC address table. Okay, how is it this MAC address format? The international AAA, which is the organism to standardize many technologies, it offers for every vendor an unique identifier called OUE, or in French, oui. So this is an example for an address MAC, or physical address. It is a succession of hexadecimal, and the first part, the first 6 hexadecimal number represent the unique identifier. Okay, I have said on a switch, all the address MAC are subscribed or saved on a table. In this table, we will make some entries, and we have some kind of entries. We will classify these entries on 3 classifications. The first is the dynamic MAC address entries. Second, the static MAC address entries, and finally the black hole MAC address entries. What about this? Let me take here some annotation. Okay, I will try to do my best with these new tools. And here, this is the first class of dynamic MAC address entries. This MAC address is learned temporarily by the interface based on the source MAC address received on this interface. It can be learned permanently too, and this kind is called a sticky MAC address. But these entries can be aged. So the other types can be aged, and the default time is 300 seconds. After this time, all entries are dropped. Okay? So what about the static MAC address entries? Here, we configure manually a MAC address at the MAC address table. Okay? And this entry is permanently configured. So if the equipment or the switch reboot, these information are not dropped. It will be saved permanently and used on the MAC address table. This static MAC address cannot be aged. Okay, so finally, we will talk about the black hole MAC address entries And this special MAC address or black hole MAC address entries are manually configured, and they cannot be aged. So it is stocked permanently. If the switch reboots, we have this information stocked on our MAC address table. What about this new kinds of MAC address entries, the black hole? This MAC address is not belonging for any or to any ports. So any packet with the source or destination MAC address being the black hole MAC address are discarded. This is the reason to use the black hole MAC address entries. Okay? So, if I would like to show the content of the MAC address table, I will type on the VRP line command, this line command display MAC addresses. Okay, so this output is an example of the MAC address entries on the MAC address table. Here we will see an entries. It will set here, or excuse me, I will use my annotation tool. So here we see our first MAC address, which is belonging to this port, and it is a static MAC address entries. So it is configured manually. Here we have another example. It is a MAC address, but is not belonging for it have any port here. No port to belonging. And the type of this entries is the black hole. Another example for the MAC address entries. Here we see another example. We have an address MAC entries which is belonging to this JE001 port, and it is learned dynamically. Okay, so we have some example here, and remember the content of this MAC address table. It will be aged after 3000 seconds, except the static and the black hole entries. Okay. So, what about the operation for to manipulate these entries? We have some command to use. The first command used in configuring MAC address entries is to put a static MAC address on my MAC address table. Okay, the command is MAC address static, and we will put here our MAC address, and we give the port on belonging it and the VLAN. Okay, so this is how to type or to enter a new static MAC address and its information. The second command is how to configure a black hole MAC address entry. Okay, the command is MAC address black hole, which is the type of this MAC address, and we specify just the MAC address without the interface neither the VLAN. So another command, how to put example here, how to modify some parameters for my MAC address table, to put an aging time. And we can modify the aging time by default, which is 3000, by the command MAC address aging times 4000. So it's about 6 or 7 minutes. And we can use here a number of seconds as we like. So the MAC address table have many parameters, and they have a default setting, and we can modify this default value on the setting, the MAC address table. Here we will talk about a feature very important, which is the port security feature about this MAC address entries on my MAC address table. This feature is not activated by default, okay? And we can activate this feature to have more security and to prevent unauthorized user from using this interface to communicate with the switch and therefore enhance device security. If we have, for example, someone which will plug it in his PC or his devices on the switch, it will be not possible to use this port. And how does it work? At the beginning, we will take a look at the classification of the secure MAC address. When we enable this feature on a port switch, the port switch will convert the dynamic MAC addresses or the static MAC addresses too on a secure MAC address. So every dynamic MAC address learned on the interface, it will be converted as a secure dynamic MAC address. But we need to enable the port security, even then if we have the sticky MAC address disabled for this first one. And the second classification is the secure static MAC address. And here, the configuration of this secure static MAC address is manually, and it's configured on the interface with the port security feature is enabled. The last one is the sticky MAC address. The MAC address that is converted on an interface with both port security and sticky MAC address enabled. We need to have these two features enabled on this port. So, how we can configure the port security? First, we need to enable this feature which is disabled by default. On the ports, line command, we put or we type the port security enable. It is very important to enable this security here to proceed with the others command or port security command. How does it work? After we enable this feature or port security feature, there are some parameters to modify or setting to change. First, we can change the action proceeded when a violation of security is occurred. With the command on the port interface 2, with the port security protect action. The protect action by default is shut down. And here we will see in the lab, we have three action or three possible action. We have shut down, restrict, and protect. We have another, it is restrict. Excuse my writing or my bad writing. I use my mouse of my desktop. Okay, and the third action is we have the shutdown, the restrict, and the protect. These are the three actions when port security violation occur. Protected. We will see these three actions on the lab. So the port security maximum MAC number. Here we can change the maximum number of the MAC address learned on this port. By default, the number is 1. So if we type this command and we learn the 6th MAC address, what will be done here? So if the 6th MAC address learned, the violation action or protect action will be aggregated, and we will have a shutdown on this port. Okay, so we can modify the port security aging time, and we put here a number of seconds. Okay, here we can see how to configure the sticky MAC address function. We have talked about in classification of the port security or the secure MAC address, and we proceed by enabling the port security feature by the port security enable, and the second command, it will be the port security MAC address sticky. Okay, so this is the port security configuration, and we can see another future important or MAC address future important tool. It is the MAC address flapping. What about this future? So if I have this topology, okay, and here we have a MAC address for this PC, and we will send a broadcast packet from switch B. The switch B it will send from this port and this port the same packet. When the switch A receives this message, it will send this broadcast packet 2 for the other type, and the switch C, we will receive 2 packets or broadcast packet from this side or the port G101 and G102, and here we will occur a loop. Okay, this is as you know, a loop will consume all resources of our switch, even then the CPU and memory, and the service is interrupted. So we're talking about to put the MAC address entries on our MAC table, but the same address we will arrive from a different port. On switch C, first, when this message this packet arrived on G101 port, the MAC address table, we will get this MAC address of the sender, the source address MAC. It will be put and belonging on port G1, Giga1 or Giga101. But when the second message arrived, our MAC address, we will receive the same MAC address but belonging to a different port. And the MAC address is modified. So here we get the another port source. And this phenomenon is called MAC address flapping. Is in change, is changed every one packet received, and we will consume resources. Okay. The MAC address learned on different ports, the same MAC address, occur the flapping phenomenon. So in the Huawei switches, there are some mechanism to or avoid this mechanism to increase the MAC address learning priority of the interface. This is the first mechanism. And the second mechanism is to prohibit MAC address entries overriding between interfaces with the same priority. So how does this mechanism work to avoid the MAC address flapping? In the MAC address flapping detection mechanism, we have, for example, here in this topology, if by misconnection leads to broadcast storm, every packet received on switch B and sent for switch C, it will send to for switch D, and it will return for switch B, and switch B send the same packet on the same port. Here on switch A, on port 2, the mechanism of detection, it will occur a checking for whether outbound interface in MAC address entries, if it changed frequently. So the mechanism works here. When it is enabled, it can block or mitigate to this flapping address MAC on my table. To configure an anti-flapping MAC address, we can use some commands. First, we can configure a MAC address learning priority for an interface. This value is by default 0 on each interfaces. We can change this value of priority, and we can change from 0 to 3, okay, as value, possible value, and the 3 is more priority, have more priority from the 0, so more bigger, more better. And the second one, we can prohibit the MAC address flapping between interfaces with this same priority, because if we have two ports with the same priority, we can prohibit some flapping between these two or more ports. By aggregating the undo MAC learning priority 3 allow flapping command. And this command will prohibit the MAC address flapping if two ports have the same priority. And the another command, so we can activate the MAC address flapping detection. This command will activate the flapping detection. Okay? So we can configure globally the MAC address flapping detection, or we can enable this feature by a VLAN-based configuration. How? By aggregating this command. So we can select in the line command VLAN 2, for example, and we will type this command, loop detect IETH loop block time. So for 100, for example, second, and retrying time is for 3. And like this, we can mitigate the flapping MAC address on my tables. So, okay. For now, we can start with our first lab, and we will take a look about these features on the our lab MAC address operation. So please give me 1 minute to change my screen share, and I will be with you. Here I will check for my ENSP simulator. So we can start our first lab here. So, with the, I guess you know what is the ENSP. This emulator software, it's very strong as learning tools for the all certification or Huawei certification from the HCII, HCIP, and the HCIE. And for your implementation, I tell you, this feature for today is for advanced users. And we aggregate some advanced commands. Okay. On our topology, we have, I have put 3 switches, switch 1, switch 2, and switch 3. I have 4 PCs, okay, and they are connected like you see here. Each one has an IP address and address MAC. For example, the PC1 has the IP address 10.10.10.1 and the address MAC or MAC address AAAAA, etc. Okay, this is for our topology, and we have some tasks to do by aggregating some operation here, okay, and I will try to explain some features about the MAC address table and the operation on the its entries. Okay, so we have here at the first, I will try to display MAC address on switch 2, switch 3, and switch 1. And I will open a CLI window here. I have this command line or CLI, okay, and I will try to type the display command MAC address to see how many entries, and like you see with me here, I have no entries on my MAC address table. On switch 1, I will try it with the switch 2, okay, and I will type the same command, display MAC address table, and there is no entries here. For my switch 3, I will try to take a look on my MAC address table with this command, display MAC address table, and I think there is no entries. So we clear here my CLI screen, and forgive me, my daughter is joining us, and if you heard some words, don't worry, it's my daughter. Good. So I think the first step is done. We can proceed with the other tasks. The second one is to ping, okay, to ping from PC1 to PC2. And thank you. And the second ping is from PC4, or from PC1 to PC4, excuse me, and PC1 to PC3. So I will open my command line on my PC1, play on the command. I see here the IP address. So the first I get a ping. I will type ping 10.10.10.3 for PC3, and I have my response here. So it's okay. And I will type a second ping to PC2 with 10.10.10.2 address. I have response here. And another ping for PC4 or 3. I get my response, so it's okay. And what happened when this ping is a packet ping is sent on my network's equipment? I will take a look on my switches MAC address table entries. If I aggregate or I type on switch 3 here, and I will display again my MAC address table. Good. Here I see something. We have 2 entries on my MAC address table. And like you see with me here, I have an address MAC, which is belonging for VLAN 1 and port JE004. So it is the MAC address for the PC4 here. And like you see here, you see with me that is belonging to the port JE004. The type of these entries is dynamic. So it is learned by the interface. When I send the ping packet, the switches exchanges for some packet, and they subscribe the MAC address received on their port. I will take a look on switch 2 with the same command, display MAC address, and here I see 2. On switch 2, we have 2 MAC address learned dynamically, and it's belonging to VLAN 1, and each MAC address on the G003. For this one is for the MAC address CCC is for PC3. Okay, but what about the MAC address for 444? I think I have mistakes here on my setting of PC1. Yeah, it is. It is not the right MAC address. I can change the MAC address for my PC here and to belonging to the text on your screen. Okay, and it's okay. If I apply here and I take a look with the IP config, if the configuration of my MAC address is okay, good. So it's the AAA, and I will send another ping to PC3. I have my response, and I will take a look on my MAC address table on switch 2. Remember with me, this entries is the past MAC address configured on my PC1. If I aggregate the same command, display MAC address table, I will have 3 entries. Okay, and these entries are dynamic. Look at with me. This is the past entries, and it is not dropped from my tables. The new packet received, it's used to get the MAC address source received on my Giga 0022 port, and it's learned dynamically. But why this entry is not dropped? Think with me. What is the reason? We know that this MAC address is not exist on my tables on my topology, but it is still it still exists on my tables. You remember the aging time? So the content of my a MAC address table is aged after 3000 seconds. There are some person who tell me I can drop this manually. Yeah, we can drop this entries manually. We see an example later. But you should know why this entry is not dropped. Okay, I will check my steps here. We have displayed the MAC address table, okay, on all switch, and we have make some changes. We can change MAC address on or for PC4 to this MAC addresses. I will proceed with the PC4. Okay, I am here. PC4, and we can change, or I make some changes. Can make. Can I make here FFFF? No, because all the FFFF, it is belonging to the broadcast address MAC. So I can do carefully to use DDD, and you see here I used 4-digit hexadecimal digit separated with a dash, and that is the format of the MAC address used on Huawei switches. Okay, so I can do this change on my PC on the basic configuration, but here the format is to separate every 2 hexadecimal digit by a dash, because here it will be a PC and not a I will type something here for the 10.10.10.3 for PC3. Okay. And we take a look on the MAC address table here. No changes here. Y. And we will have some changes here. Yes, I will see there is actually is here. Okay, and here. It's learned dynamically. So what about to make some static entries? We are here and we can aggregate this command now, or we will delete dynamic entries. After that, we will add some static entries here. How to delete some entries for or from my MAC address table. On switch to, okay, I see here, I will clear the view, and I try to add some command. Okay, so display MAC address table. So, Elena, you hear me? Elena? So I will take a look here. I can aggregate some. I am on switch to, and I can do some commands to do add and delete entries from this MAC address table. But we haven't the time to see all commands in this example. So I will try to do something to let you show you some commands. Okay. Please give me 1 moment, 1 second. I will try with you some commands. You can see my new chair. Okay, I will share with you this command. So to add a static MAC address is here, a black hole MAC address, and I will try this command to aggregate the aging time, and we have the to delete the aggregate to deleting. Okay, I will restart my screen share here. Okay, good. So what I will do now, I will try to delete my dynamic MAC address on switch to. After that, I will add some. So to delete dynamic entries, we use the command undo MAC address table, and here we will take a look for all settings or parameters can. So I can choose dynamic, black hole, or static MAC address, and I can effectively I can drop all entries, even then dynamic, static, or the black hole entries. For my example, I will drop all dynamic MAC address with this command. Okay, and we can take a look again. display the MAC address table, and we have no entries here because I have do the undo MAC address dynamic entries. Okay. How to create black hole entries? I can add. I will add this MAC address on switch 2 as a black hole entries. So we can add with this command MAC address, and we take a look here. We have a static or black hole. This is the command that I will use. I will add a black hole addresses as the MAC address for PC3, which is CCC, CCC, CCC. Okay, I will take a look on my MAC address table, and you can see here these entries, which is belonging for any VLAN, and there are no ports belonging to these entries. The type is black hole. Remember, for this type of entries, every packet with this MAC address is dropped. Every packet inbound or outbound from this switch. So I will prohibit the PC3 traffic to be processed by this switch. So all traffic inbound or outbound with this MAC address, it will be dropped. Okay. I can add some other topics. I have do this. Display MAC address, we have do this. A black hole, I have do this example. Deleting dynamic MAC, I have do this. Ping, it's okay. Enable port security. So how to enable port security? In this task, I will take a look for this port, which is on switch. Enable port, Giga Ethernet for PC on switch 3. Okay, on this port, for this one, I will enable the port security. For example, if there are some PCs which can plug it here, I will activate